Now, a couple of weeks ago, we spoke about Mohammed Hassan, 24-year-old who was found unresponsive at his residence after spending time in custody at Cardiff Bay Police Station with South Wales Police. We also mentioned about the protests that were being held outside the police station, where hundreds of people turned up with banners and placards citing BLM, Black Lives Matter and Justice for Mohammed. In the last video about this incident, there were some quotes taken from interviews with some of those who attended, including 29-year-old Bianca Ali, someone who the mainstream media says is a key figure in the Black Lives Matter movement. Well, on Saturday, 2 weeks ago, so not last Saturday, Saturday before, it was said that South Wales Police had reported an unnamed person, who they later say was a woman, and who is being reported for breaching Welsh Government coronavirus regulations by organising the demonstrations outside Cardiff Bay Police Station. Now, bear in mind that there were several days of protests, so I wonder whether or not she's been reported for each as a separate incident, or if they're just reporting her for the one. And something else I find interesting is that in August, 2 people were fined in South Wales 10 grand for organising a rave, whereas this unnamed woman is said to be getting issued with a £500 fine or a court date to refute the penalty notice. Isn't it incredible how this comes after I said about the fact there was no mention for days about any of those attending being issued penalty notices, and that this is a tiny fraction of the amount anyone else would have received had they organised the event? Could it be that South Wales Police are just in a good mood? Or could it be that South Wales Police need to be seen to be doing something whilst being as lenient as possible with a so-called key figure of Black Lives Matter? Clearly, they are becoming more brazen with their 2-tier policing. A police spokesperson said Welsh Government regulations are in place to protect the community from the spread of COVID-19, and this action was taken in an effort to protect the public's health during this global pandemic. Because a fine after the incident is going to protect people. Inquiries into the protests are continuing, and further action against other individuals for breaching COVID-19 regulations and or other criminal offences is anticipated. Earlier last Friday, the Force's Chief Constable Jeremy Vaughan described Mr Hassan's death as a tragedy and that an independent investigation was ongoing, but urged would-be protesters to keep to COVID-19 guidelines. He said, "I know people want to make their voices heard. The prevalence of racial discrimination and disadvantage across all parts of our society is such an important issue that voices should be heard. In ordinary times, policing will do all it can to facilitate people lawfully exercising that right to be heard." Yeah, okay then. These are no ordinary times. A global health pandemic is affecting all of us, and the virus is spreading, leading to unimaginable pressure on the National Health Service, and I would urge people to follow the regulations and guidelines to help protect the NHS and save lives. That line is really getting boring. He said, "I need my police officers to be working hard to protect the public, to respond to incidents of domestic violence and abuse, and respond to sexual violence, knife crimes and other forms of violence and hatred." So how about violence and hatred the public are receiving from you lot? Don't you think it's about time you started to deal with that if you really do want to help protect the public rather than your pensions? We're going to keep an eye on this particular story to see whether or not this key figure of Black Lives Matter actually gets dealt with appropriately, or whether or not the police are simply going to try and, as I say, be as lenient as possible for the fear of being called racists. Massive thank you to channel supporters, one and all, especially these guys. Your support is truly appreciated. Don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts, as I know many of you will. And until next time, stay safe, look after each other, film the police and other officials.